1 minute ago, Diddy set the perfect trap for Justin Bieber. Footage from the past resurfaces. Content warning. The following narrative contains depictions of alleged misconduct, coercion, and abuse involving public figures. Reader discretion is advised. In the glittering world of entertainment where fame and fortune often mask darker realities, the relationship between a rising teenage pop sensation and a seasoned music mogul has come under intense scrutiny. Recent revelations have cast a new light on past interactions, prompting questions about the nature of mentorship and the potential for exploitation within the industry. Justin Bieber, a young Canadian artist catapulted to stardom in the late 2000s, capturing hearts worldwide with his vocal talent and boy-next-door charm. Discovered on YouTube and quickly signed by Usher, Bieber's ascent was meteoric. Amidst this rapid rise, he crossed paths with Sean Diddy Combs, a prominent figure in the music industry, known for his influence and lavish lifestyle. In a resurfaced video from Bieber's early career, Combs is seen declaring, "I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me." The footage captures a young Bieber, then 15, seemingly under the wing of Combs for a 2-day period. The nature of their activities during this time remains undisclosed, but the casual manner in which this arrangement is presented has raised eyebrows in retrospect. Further videos depict interactions that, while perhaps overlooked at the time, now appear concerning. In one instance, Combs expresses frustration over Bieber's lack of communication, stating, "You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out." Bieber, visibly uncomfortable, responds hesitantly, highlighting a dynamic that suggests an imbalance of power. These clips, once seen as benign glimpses into celebrity camaraderie, are now being reevaluated in light of serious allegations against Combs. The context of these interactions has shifted dramatically, prompting discussions about the responsibilities of mentors and the vulnerability of young artists in the industry. In recent months, Combs has faced a barrage of accusations, including charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and coercion. Federal investigations have uncovered disturbing evidence such as drugs and weapons during raids on his properties. Testimonies from former associates and partners paint a picture of a man who allegedly used his position to manipulate and control those around him. One of the most damning pieces of evidence is a surveillance video from 2016 showing Combs physically assaulting his then-partner Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway. This footage, coupled with Ventura's detailed accounts of abuse, has significantly undermined Combs' public persona. Amidst the unfolding scandal, Bieber has largely remained silent. However, a representative recently issued a statement clarifying that Bieber is not among Combs' alleged victims. The statement emphasized the importance of focusing on those who have been genuinely harmed rather than diverting attention through speculation. Despite this clarification, the resurfacing of past interactions has led to public concern about Bieber's well-being during his formative years in the industry. Observers note that the young artist's exposure to such environments may have had lasting impacts even if no direct abuse occurred. Usher, credited with discovering Bieber, also had a close relationship with Combs during his early career. Reports indicate that Usher spent time under Combs' mentorship, experiencing firsthand the mogul's extravagant lifestyle. In interviews, Usher has recounted witnessing adult-themed parties and behaviors that were inappropriate for his age at the time. This connection raises questions about the cycle of exposure and the responsibilities of mentors in safeguarding young talents. If Usher was aware of Combs' questionable behaviors, his decision to introduce Bieber into that environment warrants scrutiny. The revelations surrounding Combs have sparked broader conversations about the entertainment industry's handling of young artists. The power dynamics at play, coupled with the allure of fame, can create situations ripe for exploitation. As more individuals come forward with their stories, the need for systemic change becomes increasingly apparent. Advocates are calling for stricter regulations and oversight to protect minors in the industry. The hope is that increased awareness and accountability will prevent future instances of abuse and ensure that young talents can pursue their dreams in safe and supportive environments. In the glow of early success, Justin Bieber's life was already a whirlwind of appearances, endorsements, and rapid fame by the age of 15. What remained hidden in the glare of paparazzi flashes was the blurred boundary between mentorship and proximity that could cross into manipulation. Among the many influential figures who orbited Bieber's rising star, one loomed especially large: Sean Diddy Combs. In one now infamous interview clip, Diddy, speaking with a casual authority, announced that Bieber would be spending the next 48 hours with him. He even joked about having custody, noting, "I did it with Usher, now I'm doing it with him." Framed initially as harmless enthusiasm, these words now echo differently in the court of public opinion. The video showing Bieber smiling awkwardly while Diddy gestured excitedly captures a moment that felt celebratory at the time. But with hindsight, that footage has become unsettling, especially considering that Bieber's actual legal guardians or management team appeared absent from the conversation. Diddy's phrasing tone and emphasis on taking Bieber full buck, full crazy in just 2 days created a narrative no longer easily dismissed as harmless fun. 2 years after that 48-hour hangout, the two met again. A newer clip shows Diddy confronting a now 17-year-old Bieber in front of cameras. Gone was the excited tone of mentorship. In its place was a tinge of reprimand as Diddy questioned why Bieber had stopped calling or hanging out like they used to. Bieber, clearly on edge, tried to explain citing Diddy's entourage and difficulty reaching him directly, but his posture and mannerisms told a more complex story. The imbalance between the two was stark, a 40-something mogul pressing a teen who'd once looked up to him. The tension was palpable, and the shift in Bieber's demeanor from nervous laughter to discomfort didn't go unnoticed by viewers. These interactions, once brushed off as lighthearted celebrity banter, now appear more symptomatic of deeper issues. What may have seemed like a mentorship dynamic had started to show signs of pressure, perhaps even coercion. And fans began to wonder what really happened during those 48 hours, and more importantly, what happened in the months and years after the Diddy-Bieber connection is not the only relationship being re-evaluated. For many observers, a pattern has emerged. Diddy had a long-standing history of building entourages that included rising stars, often very young ones. Some insiders now describe this network as not just industry mentorship, but as part of a broader social environment that blurred personal boundaries with professional access. There are reports of NDAs being presented at social events, devices being confiscated upon entry, and a general expectation of secrecy. One insider called it curated chaos, where the party atmosphere was a smokescreen for tighter control. In his testimony, one former associate described an event where attendees were separated based on unknown criteria. Some were directed to common areas, while others selected by event staff were ushered into off-camera zones. He referred to these selections as being handled military style, but with champagne and trap beats. In the months following Combs' high-profile legal troubles, sources close to Bieber noted a drastic emotional shift. According to multiple reports, Bieber has been shut down in discussions about the case. Friends and insiders say he is struggling to process it all. One source said, "It's not just about watching someone fall. It's about remembering what it felt like to stand next to them when you didn't know what they were really capable of." While Bieber has not made direct statements about his time around Diddy, his silence is being read by many as a form of self-preservation. Some mental health experts observing the situation from afar point out that trauma doesn't always manifest through explicit allegations. It can also emerge in avoidance, sudden withdrawal, and a reluctance to revisit past associations. Ironically, the person who brought Bieber into the music world, Usher, is also a key part of this tangled web. Usher had his own early years shaped under Diddy's guidance. He has spoken publicly about living with Combs as a teenager, even recounting that Diddy's mansion was a place where things were always going on. In a 2004 Rolling Stone interview, Usher described walking in on intimate adult scenes and being surrounded by lifestyles he wasn't equipped to understand at such a young age. He said, "It was wild, but I saw it all." And yet, years later, Usher would become the bridge that brought Bieber to the industry, and eventually to Diddy. In doing so, he may have unknowingly perpetuated a cycle in which young protégés were exposed to more than just career-building opportunities. This history has raised serious questions. If Usher knew the kind of world that young artists could be pulled into, why didn't he act more protectively over the next generation? And more pointedly, was Bieber ever truly protected? While no direct accusations have been leveled by Bieber against Diddy, multiple resurfaced clips suggest that the singer was repeatedly placed in environments that were arguably inappropriate for his age. Footage of Bieber at Diddy's party seemingly under the influence or appearing visibly out of place has circulated widely in recent months. In one video, Bieber is seen at an adult-themed celebration hosted by Diddy, reportedly surrounded by individuals significantly older than him. In another, Khloe Kardashian casually mentions on an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians that Bieber was at a party where half the people were naked. The comment was brushed off at the time, but has now been recirculated with renewed alarm. These moments, once played for humor or curiosity, are now sobering reminders that Bieber's early stardom may have come with unspoken costs, emotional, psychological, and personal. As public scrutiny intensifies, fans have begun demanding clarity. Online communities are urging Bieber to speak out, not to accuse, but to release himself from a weight they believe he's been carrying for years. "Your silence isn't protecting him, it's protecting your younger self," wrote one user in a viral comment thread. The suggestion isn't that Bieber owes the public a confession, but rather that unspoken trauma can linger like a shadow, especially for someone who grew up under the constant lens of celebrity. Supporters cite Bieber's past interviews, particularly one emotional moment when he broke down while discussing Billie Eilish. "I just don't want her to go through what I went through," he said tearfully. At the time, many interpreted his words as a reflection on fame, but now those same words are being parsed as something deeper, possibly an oblique reference to experiences too heavy to detail directly. The issue now seems larger than a single artist or a single mogul. Entertainment attorneys and child advocacy experts are weighing in, framing the Diddy-Bieber relationship as a symptom of a broken system, one in which youth and vulnerability are leveraged for access and image. One legal analyst commented, "There's a duty of care that was violated here, not necessarily through physical harm, but through neglect. No teenager should be expected to navigate adult industries alone." The analyst continued, "Even if Bieber was never harmed in the ways others may have been, the emotional imprint of those years, those environments can leave scars. He was 15. He wasn't just discovering his career, he was still discovering himself." As of now, Bieber has not joined any legal proceedings. There are no known lawsuits or public allegations linking him directly to the ongoing investigations involving Combs. But the re-evaluation of their relationship and the industry culture that enabled it continues to evolve. Meanwhile, Diddy remains entangled in legal proceedings. More accusers have come forward. Federal investigators continue to gather evidence. And in the midst of it all, the image of a quiet teenager walking into a mansion with a camera crew and a powerful mentor now haunts the cultural consciousness. The industry, once blind to these dynamics, now seems incapable of looking away. As Diddy's past comes under increasing scrutiny, many are now examining how expansive his influence truly was, especially within entertainment's inner circles. What once looked like industry networking now resembles a carefully constructed social ecosystem designed to maintain silence, loyalty, and control. Former collaborators describe these dynamics as subtle but unrelenting. Invitations to parties came with expectations. Deals overlapped with obligations. Relationships were not just personal, but deeply transactional. And those who attempted to leave often found that doing so came with quiet but unmistakable consequences. It is within this context that Justin Bieber's proximity to the mogul takes on even greater significance. More than just a young singer spending time with a high-profile mentor, he may have been navigating a pressure-filled environment where the price of access was far more than he ever anticipated. In one recently resurfaced anecdote, an associate recalled a moment during a 2012 private gathering, a sleek, high-profile event with actors, musicians, and tech investors mingling in a loft-style venue. Bieber was in attendance. The source, speaking anonymously, claimed that younger guests like Bieber were treated more like adornments than guests. He elaborated, there were people who were just there, not participating in business deals, not networking, just present on display. And Bieber stood out not because he said anything, but because he looked like he was trying not to. While no allegations of direct harm were made in that statement, the implications struck a nerve with audiences familiar with the ways in which fame can blur the lines between performance and pressure. Bieber, at the time still underage, may have found himself surrounded by forces that were less about protection and more about image control. And the fact that so few people asked questions speaks volumes about the industry's blind spots. What's becoming clearer is that silence served as the currency of survival in these social spheres. According to an associate of Diddy's who later distanced themselves from his network, silence wasn't just expected, it was engineered. You didn't get a direct threat, they said. You got reminders. A job offer pulled, a leaked photo, an invite quietly revoked. It was all soft power, but it worked. Those who stayed silent succeeded. Those who asked questions vanished. This model of soft coercion of managing loyalty, not through overt threats but by controlling opportunities, has been cited in multiple insider reports as one of the reasons many stayed close even when things felt off. And for someone like Bieber, who was still forming his identity, amid this, the pull of silence could have felt both protective and paralyzing. As Bieber's career matured, so did his image. But beneath the carefully curated persona were clear signs of a young man grappling with unresolved experiences. From erratic behavior in public to emotional confessions in interviews, the pop star has hinted sometimes indirectly at the toll of growing up too fast too exposed. In one interview, when asked about the challenges of early fame, he paused before saying, "I was surrounded by people who said they cared. But looking back, I think they cared more about what I could do for them." It wasn't a direct accusation, but it wasn't ambiguous either. Fans and observers have increasingly connected these breadcrumbs to his time around Diddy, among others. The growing consensus isn't necessarily that something overtly criminal happened, it's that something deeply unsettling did. In the aftermath of Diddy's arrest, Bieber's public appearances have been few and far between. At one event, he looked visibly drained. A close friend reportedly shared he's not talking about it, but it's clear he's thinking about it a lot. Whether Bieber will ever speak publicly on the matter remains uncertain. Perhaps he never will. Perhaps silence for him is not avoidance, but autonomy, a way to preserve what little privacy remains. Still, the world continues to ask questions. Why was a teenager ever given to the care of a powerful man with no legal oversight? Why did no one in the industry press harder when footage began to raise red flags? And why did so many even now treat discomfort as rumor instead of evidence? The answers may not come easily. But one thing is now undeniable. The echoes of that 48-hour window and everything that surrounded it continue to reverberate. While Sean Diddy Combs' connection to Justin Bieber now feels unsettling in hindsight, the initial link was made not through happenstance but through trust. That trust came in the form of Usher Raymond, a celebrated artist who publicly took credit for discovering Bieber and introducing him to the industry's upper echelons. Usher was more than a co-signer. He was seen as a mentor figure, and with that role came responsibilities both personal and professional. At the time, his involvement was a cause for celebration. The narrative was one of legacy, a star helping to raise the next one. But with the revelations now swirling around Diddy, observers have turned their attention to Usher's own early years and the patterns they seem to reflect. Usher himself has openly spoken about his teenage years under the influence of Combs. At just 13, he lived with Diddy, a period he once described as a wild education. In a 2004 magazine interview, he recalled opening doors to see behavior far beyond his year's scenes of intimacy excess and lifestyle extremes that, in his own words, were hard to process. While he has occasionally spoken with a kind of detached acceptance of those years, critics now point to those interviews with unease. Not because he acknowledged them, but because he later chose to place another young artist in the same proximity. If Usher had reservations, he didn't show them. Instead, he brought Bieber into the same ecosystem that had once shaped him. This has led to an avalanche of questions not only about Diddy's actions, but about Usher's choices. How could someone who lived through that experience send a minor back through the same gates? One of the most frequently cited moments in the timeline comes from an old clip that has resurfaced online in which Diddy is seen proclaiming half-jokingly that he has custody of Justin for the weekend. He described the planned 48-hour hangout in playful terms, joking about adventures girls and going full crazy. To some, it came off as showmanship, but in today's context, it reads much differently. Critics question the comfort level Diddy had with framing himself as a temporary guardian over a teenager. It raises concerns about who, if anyone, was actually monitoring these encounters and what kind of environments Bieber may have been placed into under the guise of mentorship or celebrity bonding. When those clips are viewed today, the most common reactions aren't laughter. They're disbelieving. Years after the 48-hour weekend, Diddy and Bieber crossed paths again in front of cameras. But the energy was different. Where the first clip had shown a wide-eyed Bieber nodding along nervously, the second encounter revealed a young man keeping his guard up. Diddy's tone was teasing but bordered on scolding. You don't call anymore, he said, implying abandonment.